Okay, so maybe start with a bit of feedback from yesterday's episode. Um, General consensus is that the show was really boring. Uh, People are not interested in my radio rants and my stuff about radio. So I'm willing to accept that, and this is the way I see it. Agreed. It's self-indulgent. It's boring. It's not for everybody. But having said that, if it happens one episode once in a blue moon, once in a while, yeah, you know what? Maybe just please bear with me. Obviously, if I did it every single day, it would be hugely problematic, and I'll never hear from you ever again. Oh, I've got to open a window. Yeah, sure. Need fresh air. Sure. Sorry, just opening the window. Um, so that's the feedback on that. Other feedback. I hate to use this expression because this expression "elephant in the room" has become a bit cliche, and I don't want to use it all the time. But yeah, the elephant in the room, when I spoke about the Mac G um, the Mac G interview with DJ Fresh, was somebody asked me, how do you think DJ Fresh came across? And I thought to myself, okay, so this friend of mine is asking me this question, so then obviously you might be thinking the same thing. But look, you may not have watched the interview, but hey, but it's been a big story, the whole rape allegations with DJ Fresh and DJ Euphonic. Um, not gonna get into whether I think guilty, innocent, this, that. That would be very irresponsible and reckless and pointless and just downright wrong. But what I will say, um, uh, if a crime has been committed against you, if God forbid, you've been sexually assaulted or you've been raped, and it may have happened today or yesterday, it might have happened 10 years ago. Um, Unfortunately, going on social media and reporting it on Twitter, you kind of like lose your credibility. Kind of like doesn't really work. There's just some things I think you keep off social media. Um, you may disagree with me. I mean, on other issues, people put things on social media that I would never like. Really, um, when my father passed away back in 2012, I never said anything on social media. Um, if my daughter does something brilliant and excellent, I don't put it on social media. If I got something interesting and funny and bizarre to maybe relate to you, I do it. I'll do it on this podcast. And look, I don't want to criticize. If you suddenly are accused of something like rape and whatever, you're not going to deal with it in a expert, brilliant, correct fashion. So don't get me wrong. But if I just a little, if I just want to maybe point out one thing, where Fresh related to Euphonic's response when Fresh related the story that he phoned Euphonic, do you know about this woman, these allegations, the rape, etc. And Euphonic's response was, I don't know this woman. You see now, I don't know this woman is really doesn't really make any sense because a, 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 a large majority or a good number of rapists don't know their victims. They don't know who they raped. And then obviously in a lot of cases they do know who they raped. So to say, I don't know this woman doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't really add up. How I thought DJ Fresh came across, you know, I don't like arrogance generally. I don't like it when people are arrogant. I'm very much a fan of humility. I like that. I like it when somebody is just humble, not unrealistically humble. Like I'm not saying you must, like say you just broken the world record in the 400 meters. I'm not saying you must just say, oh no, it was nothing, but just like be humble. But having said that, so I think Fresh comes across as very arrogant, which generally I don't like. But as Fresh pointed out, people call me arrogant, but I'm just telling you that I deliver. So in other words, I do a good job. And you know what? There's some arrogance that actually is all right. I think there's some healthy arrogance, which works for me. So I found Fresh's arrogance, it's okay. It's okay because that's helped him get to where he is today. In fact, I wish right now and historically, I wish I had just a little bit of that arrogance. Because you come across as a little bit arrogant, it gives people confidence in you. And if you go to a job interview and you come across as confident and a little bit arrogant, it can really, really work. So I'm not giving the guy heavy criticism on that. So I mean that's basically it. To discuss the merits of the allegations against him and this and that, I think Fresh dealt with the questioning and the interrogation pretty well. I think very well. Except when Mac G said to Fresh, he asks Fresh, "Have you ever forced yourself on a woman?" And Fresh said no. And then Mac G said, "I find that hard to believe." And Fresh just remained calm. "No, I've never done it." I would have, if I was Fresh, I would have said to Mac G, "Jesus, bro, you're insulting me. This is like, come on. How can you say, I find it hard to believe? Come on." And then Mac G kind of indirectly admitted that he's maybe forced himself on women in the past. So he kind of admitted that he was a rapist to a degree, like insinuation. So it was kind of weird. Kind of weird. I was very, very touched. I was very touched when Fresh was talking about sponsoring people and changing people's lives and leaving a legacy. And he's been running he's sponsoring people over the years to go through varsity, helping them with accommodation, helping them with living expenses. So it's not just the money for the lecturing and the university fees. It's also living expenses. If you give someone 15,000 rand bursary to go study, it doesn't really help, because where they're going to live, what are they going to eat, what about transport, etc., etc., etc. And there's a whole lot of them. What about their family, because they're at varsity, so they're not working? Who's supporting their? It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. So when I see black South Africans, especially black South Africans my age, around 50, that are qualified lawyers, doctors, etc., it's really, truly remarkable. It really, really is. And that's why it really upsets me. I get so upset with right-wing commentators like Ernst Rutz and Roman Kabanak and people like that, who just are just disregard and are just unaware and just don't care about those circumstances. The ANC have been in power for 27 years and look at this. No, it's not about... Yes, the ANC have screwed up very badly with corruption, etc. But even if the ANC did the most remarkable, perfect job for the last 26, 27 years, hell, it still wouldn't have been enough to help a lot of people and uplift people's lives. I haven't spoken much about the DA posters. I thought, because I missed Wednesday's show, and on Wednesday, everyone was talking about it. That was the big story. The posters in Phoenix, in Durban. Phoenix is predominantly an Indian area. When I say Indian, I mean people of Indian descent who are South Africans. Obviously, okay, I'm not calling them Indians. It's just a figure of speech. They're not Indians. They're South Africans of Indian descent, I know. So they put a post, the ANC calls you racists, the DA calls you heroes. It's already Friday. It's the weekend coming up. We've gone. You've spoken about this. It's been on social media. It's good. I'm not going to go into the whole. I'm not going to talk about it. The whole. Go into all the details. It's like carrying on and on. It's been done to death. It's been done. I missed the story. I missed it. Let's just be honest. I missed it. So I'm not going to carry on about it. Maybe you come to me for something a little bit different. Maybe it's nice to let's reflect. So without overanalyzing, just off the bat, Indian area, Phoenix. The ANC called you racists. So the question is, who is you? The DA calls you heroes. So who is you? You is obviously Indians, South African people, South Africans of Indian descent. So straight away there's a problem there, because why? You're messaging based on race. You directing your message to a particular race. It's in bad taste. It's kind of, it's racializing the situation. It's divisive. Yes, that's the word. It's divisive. You know, if you want to be a political party that represents all South Africans, you can't narrowcast. You know, narrowcast is the opposite of broadcast. You can't narrowcast to a particular sector of society. That's, and then there's a whole lot of other things. The DA calls you heroes. And it was very funny. It was John Steenhuisen busy defending it. Then John Steenhuisen, one of the things John Steenhuisen really shot himself in the foot. He denied that the posters were directed at Indian people. You can't deny that, John. And then he argued, and he really defended the posters like heavily. And then the next day, Thursday, yesterday, the DA removed the posters. So the thing is, John Steenhuisen is the leader of the DA. And he was defending the posters. And imagine, then the next day the posters are taken away. So who's in charge of the DA? Who called that? Because John Steenhuisen was saying these posters are good on Wednesday. Thursday, posters are gone. So what happened on Wednesday night? Did they have a little Zoom meeting? Who was in the Zoom meeting? John, Helen Zille? Who else? So they realized, let me find that story. Was it, what's this guy's name in the, Dean McPherson. Okay. The party has apologized for poorly chosen offensive words in its campaign. Dean said the party has to be, okay, now Dean, this Dean McPherson said something really weird. He said the party, that's the DA, has to be realistic. We can afford to lose 50% of black DA voters. But we cannot afford to lose 50% of the Indian vote who will vote for the DA. So again, Dean he's talking along racial lines again. I don't know, they just keep on scoring own goals and shooting themselves in the foot, whatever analogy or metaphor you want to look at. So I don't know what to say. Can the DA recover? Somebody tweeted this morning, 2024 general elections, they predict the EFF will become the official opposition, and the DA might only just beat Action SA and the Good Party and whatever else there is around. But just imagine, and I had this fantasy this morning. I thought to myself, you know, there's like a major area in Johannesburg, Glen Hazel, which is predominantly Jewish, but it's not 100% Jewish. It's like, I don't know, maybe 75% Jewish, maybe even 80%. Anyway, imagine the DA wants to get the Jewish vote. Look, they wouldn't, because it's such a small amount of people. It's like less. It's like 1% of your electorate. But imagine the DA posting in Hazel. I just had this thing. I actually wrote some of it down because the Ossewa Brandwacht didn't want you here, but we like you. Vote DA. A cheese blinster with every DA vote. Hey? Your shul is too far for you? Question mark. We'll build a shul closer to your home. Vote DA. Your maid doesn't under. Okay, this is a bit too long for a placard. Maybe this can be in a manifesto. Your maid doesn't understand the kosher kitchen. The DA will send her on a 2-week kashrut course. That's learning kosher cooking. Free lessons and accommodation. And we'll lend you a highly trained kosher domestic worker during this period. T's and C's apply. You can't keep the stand-in domestic worker that we lent you. When your domestic worker comes back, you can't keep the one we lent you. That's the terms and conditions. Okay, last one. You don't like your neighbor's automatic lights going on every time you walk past them on the Sabbath? We will outlaw this practice. Vote DA. Okay, this is a funny story. I had a friend, Jacob, and he lived in Orange Grove, which also had quite a lot of Jewish people back in those days. We're talking 30 years ago. And they had these automatic lights that if somebody walked past the house or drove past the house, their lights came on. So they had some very Jewish religious neighbors that would walk past their house on the Sabbath, coming home from shul, coming home from the synagogue or going to synagogue. They politely asked Jacob's father, please, would you switch off your lights? Please, would you deactivate the automatic lights over the Sabbath? Because in case you didn't know, on the Sabbath, you're not supposed to put on lights or switch off lights, that kind of thing. You're not supposed to drive. You're not supposed to watch TV. You don't put it on any electrical device. Jacob's father, an Israeli, they're Jewish. He was this Israeli, like this tough Israeli, and he said no. So he refused. He would not deactivate the light. And to this day, it's just one of those stories that I've always just remembered. I've always just remembered. I can't let go of this DA thing. Just one last. This is a new thing that I saw this morning. DA Federal Council Chairperson Helen Zille. Helen Zille will always deliver, hey, in terms of entertainment, and she delivers like DJ Fresh delivers. Helen Zille delivers. DA Federal Council Chairman Helen Zille has refused to comment on her party's posters on Phoenix. She says she is more concerned about the living conditions of South Africans, not the outrage on social media. Now, here is the thing. And I admit I never thought of this myself, because I never really read Helen Zille's book, but somebody on Twitter, Andrew Fraser on Twitter, you must follow Andrew Fraser. That's a nice Twitter handle to follow. He said, are you kidding, Helen Zille? You wrote a whole book literally on this, talking about the faux pas of social media. So she did a whole book on discussing the concept of social media. And then now she's backtracked 180. See, she's not interested in the outrage of social media. But she wrote a whole book on the outrage of social media. It's all about, if Helen Zille contextualized it and said, listen, I admit I wrote a whole book discussing outrage on social media and its connection with society and connection with politics and the social fabric and the whole dynamic. I admit that, but in this particular case, I don't want to focus on this particular incident on social media. I'm here at this place, at this soccer field. There's a stadium that the ANC spent 15 million rand constructing, in inverted commas. There's just a verlepte, disgusting little wooden stand in a field. Where did the 15 million rand go? Good damn question. Oh my God, what an outrage. Oh my God, what a horror story. Look, at least Helen Zille was there. At least she was there doing that. But so there we go. So Helen delivered. I don't understand. Helen Zille is the DA Federal Council chairperson. Now, what is that? I mean, I alluded to this just now. Who is leading the DA? Because John Steenhuisen is the leader of the DA, and he was defending the posters. Then the next day, the posters are taken down. DA Federal Council chairperson, Helen Zille. What is the DA Federal Council chairperson? It's like the Springbok rugby team. Jacques Nienaber is the coach. But there's Rassie Erasmus. He's not just advertising Bitcoin apps to buy Bitcoin. He's the technical director of SA Rugby, but he's like in the background. He's there. So who is actually running the Springbok team? Who really is coaching the Springbok rugby team? I mean, Jacques Nienaber, he's got Rassie Erasmus on his shoulder. Has John Steenhuisen got Helen Zille on his shoulder? Who else is on his shoulder? Sure, no black people. They've got no black people on his shoulder. They've got rid of all the black people. All black people left. Constructive, like a constructive dismissal. Anyway, let's not get into that. Anyway, so how about that? Okay, and then what else? What else was going on? Okay. Oh, I was talking about. Oh, okay. I don't know whether I admitted I admitted my neurosis, my neurotic disposition yesterday, and a bit of feedback, right? So, now yesterday I was determined I'm going to go for the colonoscopy. I discussed the colonoscopy decision yesterday. I saw a little bit of blood in my stool. I phoned the doctor. I made the appointment. The colonoscopy is scheduled for Monday. And I illustrated my neurotic disposition. I've got this other thing that I'm a bit neurotic about, and maybe it's because I'm guilty. I don't know what it is. I follow a lot of people, quite a number of people on Twitter. When I see a tweet that I really like and I enjoy and I agree with, I will like and retweet, or just retweet. You know what I mean? Or I'll even respond. I'll give my opinion. And then I'll give my opinion, and then if the person doesn't respond, I'll leave it. I won't give my opinion to that person again, because I'm thinking they're not interested in me. But that's not necessarily the case. Not everyone responds to. Somebody might have enjoyed my response, but they just don't. And I get all paranoid. This person's not interested in my tweets. It's crazy. And I got this I'm worried. I have this fear. If the tweeter is a female and I respond or like or retweet, I'm worried she thinks that I am stalking her. Can you believe it? I'm worried that this person's going to think that I'm stalking them. And I'm not. I really, really am not. But I got this thing. Isn't that weird? If it's a male person, I don't get that. I don't get that fear that I'm going to be perceived as being a stalker. I don't get that. But I go back to the thing. If I respond, if I give like my comment or my opinion, and they ignore me, I leave them. I don't respond to that person again until maybe long afterwards. I responded to this one person a number of times, and they never ever responded. So I won't respond again. That's just, I don't know. I know I'm repeating myself. It's like isn't it a weird, unhealthy thought process? I don't know. Think about it. Is it just me? Anyway, it's the weekend now. Maybe that's something for you to think about. You know what? There are more important things to think about. Let's be honest. But, I'm weird. I'm weird that way. Anyway, try have a good weekend.